After all the hands-on previews and seeing the conversations surrounding Rise of the Ronin, I have a feeling the game's not going to get a fair shake. And releasing the same day as Dragon's Dogma 2 probably wasn't the best decision either. I just want to say this right off the bat. I really enjoyed my playthrough of Rise of the Ronin. For this to be Team Ninja's first open world game, they have done an excellent job implementing mechanics that worked in their prior games and built a great foundation for future open world releases. It took me 50 hours to complete the game, and I still got tons of open world activities I gotta clean up before I get the platinum. But even though I had a great time with the game, I have my fair share of critiques, and if addressed, would make the overall experience a lot better. So let's get into the review. Rise of the Ronin takes place in the last years of the Edo period in the 19th century. The game kicks off with your village being attacked by shogunate spies, and you and your sibling are saved by a warrior from the Kuruso clan. You both are recruited into the Veiled Edge and trained to become twin blades to take down the shogunate. Fast forward, after a failed attempt at assassinating Commodore Perry, a US native working with the shogunate to open Japan's ports, you're defeated in battle by a masked warrior and separated from your twin blade. You go on to break the Iron Code by leaving your village in search of your twin blade, and you do end up reunited, but under very different circumstances. The story is multi-layered. While you're on your own personal journey, Japan is changing and the days of the samurai are coming to an end. Throughout your journey, you're going to be taking on missions from both pro-shogunate and anti-shogunate factions. They both have their own solutions on how to deal with Western influence in Japan, and you're going to need to pick a side. That's pretty much the setup for this adventure. Man, the story's filled with a bunch of interesting characters, and there's a bond system in the game. There's a long list of NPCs you will come across in your journey, and completing missions for them will increase your bond. You can also give gifts and have random conversations that will also improve your relationship status. You can even form a romantic relationship. As your bond level grows, you will be rewarded with new items, rare skills, and fighting styles. It's a really cool feature, and the game has a great cast of characters. Overall, I enjoyed the story, but it would have been a lot better if your created character was fully voice acted. Some games work having the silent protagonist, but Rise of the Ronin is one of those games that would have benefited if your character said more than 5 lines the entire game. All the NPCs you interact with are fully voice acted, so you kind of stick out like a sore thumb. Also, the game has you select dialogue options, kind of like in Mass Effect, and some choices actually impact the story. I think the game would have been a lot more immersive if your character was fully voiced. When Rise of the Ronin's hands-on previews dropped, I saw a lot of people dunking on the game's visuals. In my hands-on preview, I mentioned the visuals wouldn't blow anyone away, but I was still surprised to see so many people say the game looked like a PS3 game. I was like, damn. I understand visually it ain't no Red Dead 2, no Ghost or Horizon, but saying the game looks like a PS3 game is disingenuous. Let's take a quick look at the world of Rise of the Ronin. A PS3 game? Yeah, no. I think it's fair criticism if you want to see Team Ninja step it up in the visuals department in their games, but Rise of the Ronin ain't super ugly like some are saying. I personally can't wait for the inevitable PC release, which should look even better, well, hopefully. There's 3 graphical modes in the game: performance, graphics, and a ray tracing mode. You can also uncap the frame rate for both graphics and ray tracing mode so you can hit targets higher than 30 frames per second. I'm glad that they added this since it future-proofs the game for the PlayStation 5 Pro. The majority of my playthrough was in performance mode, and it holds 60 frames per second pretty well. Yes, I encountered some dips, but it's consistent for the most part. What needs to be improved, if possible, is the pop-ins. Rise of the Ronin has pop-ins that are too noticeable for my liking, especially while traveling on horseback. There's also a visual bug in the game with the shadows. That's pretty distracting as well when you're staying still. The game has a day and night cycle, so when the sun is setting and rising, the shadows move accordingly. The issue is, it's choppy. Take a look. Team Ninja needs to address these 2 issues. I beat the game before getting the day 1 patch, so maybe it will be resolved at launch, but in case it's not, I need to point it out. Truthfully, those are the only problems I have with its presentation. I saw people complaining about the game's horseback animations, and I find it quite hilarious how people pick and choose when to call out these kind of nitpicks, because where was all the smoke for Elden Ring's horseback animations? They're pretty damn similar, I don't know. The shining star here is Rise of the Ronin's combat system, which I enjoyed my entire playthrough. But before I break that down, I want to go over the game's open world. It's your standard Ubisoft-styled open world game. It actually draws a lot of inspiration from Ghost of Tsushima. They even have similar open world content. There's shrines for you to pray at, cats for you to collect, fugitives for you to kill, villages for you to liberate, landmarks for you to visit, treasures for you to collect, a whole bunch of side quests, and photos you need to take. There's also firearm, gliding, horseback archery, and gambling minigames, as well as dojos for you to challenge your comrades and set high scores. There's a lot to do, so if you're suffering from open world fatigue, this game is definitely going to contribute to it. Personally, I haven't got sick of some of the repetitive open world activities yet because the combat is just so satisfying. The world map is pretty big, but it's divided into 3 maps, Yokohama, Edo, and Kyoto. As you progress in the main story, you unlock these areas. It's just not interconnected. You can revisit previous maps at any point by selecting Testament of the Soul at your Longhouse. Your Longhouse is like your base of operation. This is where you can redesign your appearance, transmog your armor, co-op missions with your friends, access your storage, talk to NPCs that visit, and there's some other cool things available for you to do. Your horse, glider, and grappling hook will be your main means for traversing the world. Also, there's Veiled Edge banners scattered across the world map, and these act as fast traveling points. Most of the time, I find myself just fast traveling. The loading in this game is really quick. Rise of the Ronin's combat is incredibly fun. Off rip, I want to debunk this mash one button narrative I've seen people spewing about the game. It's an oversimplification of the game's combat and another disingenuous narrative. Yes, your square button is your attack button, and you press it consecutively to do a combo, hold it to do a charge attack, and press forward and square to do an advance and attack. Triangle is your counter spark button, which is your parry that also deals damage. The game is extremely parry focused and it's super satisfying landing them. Like, you can legit parry a bullet or a fire arrow and set your weapon on fire. Like, come on, that's super cool. Plus, the enemy variety in the game is great, so mastering the parry timing with all the different enemies is a fun process. You, the player, and every enemy in the game has a key bar, and if you take a hit while it's depleted, you'll be stunned. It's very similar to Nioh, so you can't just mash the attack button away. The goal is to deplete your enemy's key by parrying and attacking to deal a critical hit. There's a total of 9 weapons in the game, and if you count your fist, there's 10. Each weapon has multiple combat styles, and you can equip 3 at once. Changing combat styles not only gives you access to new special attacks by pressing R1 and one of the face buttons, but also gives you counter spark advantages over certain weapons. For example, 10 styles are effective against katanas, but ineffective against sabers. They teach you all of this in the game's tutorial. It's a great system. The combat is very fluid and very addicting once you get the hang of it. As you progress and start upgrading your skill tree, you get some cool new moves like the flash attack, which grants you the ability to deal a quick follow-up attack when switching weapons. You can do some really cool combos with it, so yeah, you're just not pressing square. Your grappling hook can be used for combat as well. You can pull enemies to the ground, project yourself closer and deal an attack, and with the left trigger you can access your bow, rifle, handgun, and flamethrower. Yeah. Oh, and if you're partied up with other NPCs, you can switch to them in real time. Rise of the Ronin also has basic stealth mechanics. You can assassinate enemies from bushes, from your glider, and from rooftops with your grappling hook. Stronger enemies won't go down so easily though, but you can inflict a critical hit. The stealth gameplay is cool, but the game's not really designed to stealth an entire mission, since there's always that one enemy that can't be killed in one shot, but it's a useful tactic to thin the herd. If you watch my hands-on preview or another creators, you probably know that the game has difficulty options. Team Ninja's action games have a reputation of being hard, so Rise of the Ronin is easily their most accessible game yet. But if you're looking for a challenging experience, play the game on Twilight difficulty and you'll get what you're looking for. After completing the game, there's an even harder difficulty called Midnight you unlock, so everyone is covered here, whether you're just looking to enjoy the story or test your skills. This game doesn't have your traditional style New Game Plus in the sense where you select it in the start menu when you start your game. The way it's set up here is you can redo any mission you want at your Longhouse with your current Ronin level and equipment. So you could just jump around, play whatever mission you like, and make different choices to see what would have changed if you went a pro shogunate or anti-shogunate route. So the way progression works in Rise of the Ronin is your skill tree is tied to your character stats. So as you unlock new abilities in your strength, dexterity, charm, and intellect skill trees, your overall attack power, defense, luck, key recovery, and so on will increase. You acquire skill points and rare skill points by obviously completing missions, side quests, defeating enemies, and doing open world activities. Remember the Veiled Edge banners I mentioned for fast traveling? They also have another use. Like in the Soul genre, once it's activated, your replenishables and enemies reset. Also, your karma, your EXP you build up, get converted to skill points once touching a Veiled Edge banner. If you're killed by an enemy, you'll lose all your karma and you're gonna need to reclaim it back by killing the same enemy or landing a critical hit. Rise of the Ronin also has a weapon proficiency system in the game as well. All the weapons in the game naturally level up as you use them and encounter them. It caps out at level 25, and for each level you gain, you get bonus effects like damage increases for combat styles and even skill points. Throughout your playthrough, you're gonna acquire a lot of loot, from armor to all kinds of weapons, so be prepared to disassemble them for materials. There's features in place that saves you a lot of time, making the process easy, so kudos to Team Ninja for that. The materials you get from disassembling gear can be used to upgrade weapons and the armor you actually want to use. You can also transfer weapon properties to others. The game has so much customization and crafting options, it's great. I think I covered all major aspects of the game at this point. Rise of the Ronin is a great game and I highly recommend it if you're into action games. The combat is super fun and satisfying, and it's the shining star here. I'm gonna get back to working on the platinum myself. I hope this video served its purpose and it was helpful.